Arlington has won the Super 8 Massachusetts State Championship.
Hello Arlington sports lovers, I'm Nick Antonakas with ACMi Sports, and we're here at Studio B today, and I'm lucky enough to be joined with the Arlington boys varsity soccer captains Declan Dolan, Ben Kohlberg, and Connelly. What's up, guys?
How's it going? Hello.
So let's just start from the top. When did you guys begin playing soccer?
So I think I started around 5 or 6 in the Arlington Youth Town program.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I had my dad put me into the program, and it just grew from there.
Yeah, I also started around 5 or 6, and the first real team I played on was with Declan here.
All right, so I've heard a lot about the Dolan Eagles from your dad, Ben. So tell me a little bit about the Dolan Eagles and what they are and stuff like that.
The Eagles is the first travel soccer team that 3 of us played on, coached by his dad, David Dolan, hence the Dolan Eagles thing. We were called the Eagles, and so it was just a team that the 3 of us have been playing on since we were very young, and we're still playing now. So it's kind of symbolic of our lengthy relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that we're the only team to win multitudinous different tournaments. We won a bunch of club tournaments as a town team, which was pretty much unheard of from the Arlington Soccer Club. And there was one team probably 4 years before us that was comparable, but we were probably one of the better teams growing up throughout the entire Arlington soccer program.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons that Ben's dad brings it up so much is because that core group of us, I think it's 7 or 8 that are on the varsity team now. We basically been playing together since 3rd grade and been moving up all together. So I think that's pretty, as Ben was saying, it's a really good relationship and bond between all of us.
That's great to hear. So as you guys transitioned through town soccer and up to the high school level, it was a big change, obviously. So tell me a little bit about how that change affected you guys.
I think definitely at the varsity level, even though we all played pretty high-level club teams, but definitely going to the varsity level is a lot quicker, and even people can tell you it's going to be a lot quicker. That's what everyone says, but you never really expect it. So I think it took me about a year to really get acclimated to the speed and the physicality, but yeah.
I know getting accustomed to the high school speed of play for me at first wasn't tough because both Ben and I made the freshman team our freshman year, and it was kind of just for fun, I guess. But then moving up to varsity, neither of us got much time during that year, but it was really, really helpful for our development. And again, the speed of play and the physicality of the games is just beyond anything else I've ever played in.
Yeah, I also think that, as Sean and Declan were saying, the speed of play is just, completely different from what I had ever played before going into my sophomore year, which is my first year on varsity. But I also think that my sophomore year kind of was, a very good transitional period because I didn't see the field a lot, but I did get to practice a lot with the varsity team, and that kind of, shaped me and got me ready for the pace of play and the aggression and, the physicality needed to, play at a varsity level.
Okay. So specifically looking back at last year's team, as I've heard, you guys were kind of led by a totally different group of guys. So how have you guys been able to take over the workload of those seniors who have now graduated? What has that been like?
It's definitely been different. I think especially a whole new experience as a captain and a leader, and then losing 7 guys from the starting lineup that made a state championship the year before. It was definitely different trying to get everyone, the upcoming sophomores and juniors that would make varsity this year, getting them ready for the season. And then also kind of taking hold of the team and trying to lead by example, which I'd never really done before.
I think the biggest thing was the fact that we had lost, either around 11 seniors, which is half the roster.
Wow.
So filling those spots with people and instilling confidence in them that they are capable of playing at a varsity level was completely different because my junior year that I was just there, I was just playing, I was just having fun, but then come senior year, I was having to push these kids to do more than they had expected, and I think that it's been a really good change for me as a person for the future, but also it's really, I guess, easy. It's better to see now what they went through before as a captain and how like difficult it actually is and how easy they made it seem.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that I've noticed too is just like in the beginning of the season, it was kind of like a rough period or not necessarily rough, but it was hard for some of the like sophomores who are playing this year and the juniors whose first year it is on varsity to kind of like transition to the pace of play that we were talking about before. So I think that was something for us, like it was important for us, the three of us to do, was just kind of like get those players acclimated to the pace of play for varsity level. And so like last year, I mean, I assume that I can speak on behalf of the three of us. Like we weren't doing the job of like getting people acclimated. We were just kind of like doing the acclimation ourselves. So this year was a whole different like vibe.
Yeah, and more about last year. You guys made it all the way to the state championship last year. So coming into this season, have you guys been given like a high bar to pass? Like, what have those expectations been like this year after appearing in the state championship last year?
Yeah, definitely. I think the last 2 years, I think it's been the most successful 2 years that the like boys soccer program has had. The year before, we won Middlesex for the first time, and then last year making it to the state championship. So we definitely, being our last year, we definitely wanted to like keep that those high performances up. But then also because there was such a turnover within the team, we had to kind of temper our expectations with so many new kids and so many new starters. So yeah.
I think our expectations coming into the year were a lot larger than we have our expectations as now. Mostly because we had a core group of guys like the Dolan Eagles. But it hasn't panned out the way we had originally expected to, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think we've grown a lot, like much more than we did last year as a team, because last year we started out so high and we got a little bit higher. But I think we started out lower this year and we're making a lot more progress. And I think that's a testament to our character. And like I think we can do big things this year, but it's all just coming down to like who wants it more.
Yeah. So now that this season's coming, closing in on an end, what have been some high and low points for you guys this season?
I think definitely the highest point for me was the 2-0 win against Lexington on senior night.
Yeah.
Definitely, like last 2 years, #1 team in the state. Like perennial rivals for us. Always, our sophomore year we won the Middlesex, and Lexington was second. Last year, they won the Middlesex, and I think we were second. And then so yeah, just like kind of a perfect way to close out our last game at home for the regular season, and a big win against a really good team.
Yeah.
I think a high for me would definitely be the 5-game win streak. Not obviously because of the wins, but I think starting out 3-3-3 was not ideal for us, and the fact that we were able to pull, even against what might be perceived as weaker opponents, we were able to pull out 5 straight wins, which is really hard to do in the Middlesex League, no matter the opponent. And I think the low for me would probably be back-to-back 1-0 losses against Belmont and Reading, mostly because we all know that those were teams that we could beat, and they just got really lucky, and both goals were within the last 10 minutes of the game. It's not like they were up the whole game. So I think that was probably the low point of the year, but the fact that we were able to turn it around after that is really, really special, I think.
Yeah, I think that I'd say that the low point of our season was kind of just like probably the first half of the season when we just weren't performing to like what we could perform at. And then, but I also think that kind of feeds into our like high point of the season, which is that like spree we went on the 5-game win streak, because it was like all of the vengeance that we had piled up on after not being able to finish those games out, and like all those ties and losses like kind of led into the wins like in the 5-game win streak that we had, and then that kind of culminated with the Lexington win.
Yeah, definitely. But talking more about your guys' experience as captains, you've been in obviously a lot of high-pressured situations, a lot of games where your season's on the line. How have you guys learned, going through 4 years of high school now, playing soccer, how have you learned to kind of lead the group and keep them in their zone?
I think we've had some great captains that like I've tried to take kind of bits and pieces from all of their kind of styles of leadership. So yeah, it's definitely been different. It was a lot harder than I expected, especially as we were just talking about that kind of low point of the season where we kind of couldn't get a win. But then getting through that and just keeping everyone motivated, keeping everyone with high confidence and stuff. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I've got out of this season was just kind of not just thinking about myself, but also getting other people into the play, other people high confidence and everything else.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me is at the beginning of the year, I had pretty much no idea what I was doing as a captain. And throughout, I've progressed to see that I need to be staying positive on the field, and I think that's really helped me and helped the team. And also, I think a really big thing for us as a group is we are all able to motivate the bench to get way more into the games and to cheer us on while we're playing. And I think that's really imperative to how our 5-game win streak has gone, because it's just been crazy to see how we can perform with help from everyone.
I'd say that something that's really important for me that I've also like picked up on from previous captains is it's really important to like maintain the composure of the players on the field. So if like we go down early, or if we're not being able to, like, we're not able to score, we're getting shut down at all chances, like making sure that people don't lose their heads, and just like, because that'll probably end up in like lower quality of play. So just making sure that everybody stays confident throughout the game and is willing to take risks and take chances.
Obviously, this season has been tough. You guys have had like an unbalanced schedule, and it's been tough this year. So how have you guys dealt and gone through this season? What's the journey been like?
Definitely, like, we started out pretty good. We had 2 wins, one against a really good Watertown team, and then we, like, as we keep talking about, that little streak where we just couldn't get a win, and then like, definitely been kind of a roller coaster with the poor performances leading into the nice win streak, but then still kind of some inconsistencies within the play. Even when we were getting results, still not playing really the way we want to. So I think definitely something going into tournament is kind of just becoming consistent and playing the way we want to play no matter what happens.
Yeah, I think the schedule has been really weird this year. We had like 4 of the toughest teams in the Middlesex League all back-to-back.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, at the beginning of the year, I was like, why would they do this? But now that I'm seeing it, these are all tournament teams that we're pretty much just preparing ourselves for the coming tournament. And we've been able to get results off of these teams that are more than capable of going far in the tournament. And I think that that's really been good to see our strength of schedule playing into our advantage near the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, going off the whole schedule thing, it seems as though like we've had, I don't know, 2 or 3 maybe weeks this year during the season where we have a game on Monday, a game on Wednesday, and a game on Friday. And I know for me personally, like, it's super physically demanding. And this past week we had Woburn, who's a really good team, on Monday, and then Lexington, who's obviously a really good team, on Wednesday. And then on Friday we had Winchester, who's again a really good team. And at that point, it's just like, it's so hard to compete physically because your body is just so tired, and then you have practice on Tuesday and Thursday as well. So that's been a challenge certainly throughout the season.
It's definitely been like a tough ride this season for you guys, but now with only a couple of games remaining, what would it mean if you guys can get a couple wins here and earn a home playoff game? What would that mean to you guys?
That's basically everything. Obviously, a home game for us would be our last game at the high school, and obviously the support that we get at the home games, it's just a huge factor, especially the last couple of years when we've been able to get a lot of people at the playoff games. Last year against Belmont, it was a really tough game, really tough conditions, but then we had the crowd there, went all the way to a penalty shootout, and then kind of used the boost from the crowd to get that win out, and then obviously propelled us to go really deep in the tournament. So a playoff home game would be very big for us.
I think we've had home games the last 2 years. Sophomore year we had 1, and last year we had 2 home games. And I think it's really good to get a home game at first, because you'll get these fans coming out, and then when they see you win at home, they'll proceed to come to the away games, and it's really helpful. Like I said, the bench getting into the game is really helpful for us, but as well as like the fan section getting into the game, because I know as a person that likes to get in people's heads, people like fan sections will try and get in people's heads, and it does work a lot of the time. And I think that's really quintessential to like how we want to play and how we want to succeed.
Yeah, I think on top of getting a home game, if we are able to win these next 2 games, I think that'll kind of lead us on a path of consistency, because if we're able to beat 2 really good teams like Belmont and Reading, then that could seep into the playoffs, like that consistent performances. So that could definitely help us in the playoffs as well.
And looking ahead to the playoffs, I believe that you guys have been on like a roll as of late. So how can you take this momentum and this in-season success and transmit that into playoff success?
It's a lot about mentality, which during like these low points of the season, I think that's when we really built that, not only like confidence in like ability to get out of a tough spot, but also a lot of like team bonding. Morale is very high right now. Over the course of the season, I think we've built like a lot of good relationships, and everyone kind of works for each other. But I think the biggest thing now is kind of keeping a mentality and being focused, especially these 2 games. We could definitely see them again in tournament. So knowing that these are going to be playoff type games, like I think they're both senior nights for them, away games at night. So we need to be ready, and we need to, just have that mentality and focus that we're going to need in tournament.
I think the biggest thing is we need to not let ourselves get complacent. Like the fact that we beat the #1 team in the state 2-0 with their first loss this season, that's great. But you can't expect to play like that every game. And so we need to actually go out and show that we are capable of beating the #1 team in the state with their first loss of the season. And I think these next 2 games, especially away for senior night, they'll have large fan sections again, getting into players' heads. So I think it'll be a testament to ourselves to see if we can pull those out.
I think another important aspect is we definitely have to like maintain what we've kind of coined this year as a killer instinct, because like if we play down to opponents that aren't like as high of a seed as us or we've beaten before in the season, like that's certainly not going to help us out in the games. And if we can kind of maintain that effort that we had against games like BC High or Lexington, that's definitely going to help us out throughout the last couple of games of the season.
My last question for you guys. What would it mean to you if you guys can go the distance, get all the way to the state championship, and come away with the win? What would that mean to you guys?
I mean, it would basically be the perfect ending. Sophomore year, we won Middlesex. Last year, we won the North Championship, made it all the way to the state championship. So to like finish our high school careers with basically everything that we could have possibly won, like as an ending, would be perfect.
I think sophomore year was the farthest an Arlington team had ever gone for boys soccer, and then last year obviously was the farthest because we went farther. And it's just something that you never forget. Even losing in the state championship, you never forget. But if you like winning the state championship, that's just something that it resides with you the rest of your life.
Yeah, I know personally, and I assume this is the same for Declan and Sean, but like after that state finals loss last year, I haven't like stopped thinking about it. I just really want to win the state finals, so this year could be our chance to do it. So, yeah, weight off my shoulders.
Well, obviously, good luck to all you guys. We'll all be there with you guys going into these last couple of games and going into the playoffs, and I wish you guys best of luck. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in here today. To stay updated on the boys varsity soccer squad, keep watching ACMi Sports. I'm Nick Antonakas, and we'll see you in the playoffs.